All right, Mr. Belk, thank you so much for joining us today on Currents. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, these are really some beautiful photographs. I've seen several of them, and they are just beautiful. Why don't you give me a little bit of a history about yourself and what led you to, or what inspired you to do this series of photographs?
Well, I've been a fashion photographer for 30 years. Not only been a photographer, but designed and produced fashion advertising for a lot of the names that you would recognize in the industry. And about probably halfway into my career, I started asking the question, why me? Why did I get to have such a great job that, took me around the world and really let me have a lot of fun making a good living?
Right.
And I started recognizing that I probably had something I needed to give back. Several years ago, probably 3 years ago, was when I got this idea of taking my time and talents and using them to take the messages of Jesus Christ from 2,000 years ago and make them relevant to today. And
Right.
That's how this came about.
Have you gotten any feedback of saying, well, maybe I don't like this so much, seeing Jesus standing beside a sports car or something like that?
Anytime you do something like this, any type of art collection like this, but especially one that has to deal with the subject of Jesus Christ, you're going to get some blowback. Fortunately, ours has been minimum. In fact, it's been the opposite. People have absolutely loved what they've seen. I've gotten emails from all around the world just thanking me for doing this and being blessed for the images and how real it makes Jesus and how it connects him to what's going on in their lives today.
First of all, there's one of Jesus actually walking down a road with a Nazi. Describe that, kind of explain that to us and the meaning behind that.
Well, let me preempt that by saying that all of the images began with messages. What I wanted to share on that image was forgiveness. And I didn't necessarily want to come up with an image that was going to be radical or invasive in anybody's life, but that was the image that came to my mind. What would be more difficult to forgive than Jewish people forgiving the Nazis for the Holocaust?
Right. Well, what about the one which I actually particularly like? It's of Jesus standing to the side of the cross, and the cross actually has a neon vacancy sign on it.
I have to tell you, I really love that image. Where the idea came from, it has to only be divine, because I don't think I could think up something like that.
Right.
But the whole idea is, when you think back to the beginning of Jesus' life, his birth, and the story of Mary and Joseph, you recall there was no room in the inn.
Right.
But 33 years later, there seemed to be plenty of room for him on the cross. In fact, they were opening doors for him to hang on the cross. And so, to me, the cross represents, that there's a vacancy for all of us, that we all have a place there in learning how to die to our own self-needs and live for other people's needs, and learn to die to the darkness of this world and open our eyes to the light of Jesus' world.
Right. Now, one more I wanted to ask you about was there was one where Jesus is kind of standing alongside a sports car. That one I think maybe needs a little bit of explanation, at least on my part. I was kind of looking at it, a little scratching my head a little bit.
Well, it's the rich young ruler.
There you go.
As you recall, the rich young ruler was very interested in Jesus' message about eternal life.
Right.
And he asked Jesus, what do I have to do to get this? And Jesus said, follow the commandments. And he says, do that. What else do I need to do? And Jesus knew what his issue was. It was his money, and it was his lifestyle. And so he said, give it all up. Give it all up. Then follow me. And so here is a modern-day rich young man who has a Ferrari. After all, we were shooting in Italy. You had to have a Ferrari,
Yeah, of course.
And he's got a beautiful girl sitting in there who's dressed in Armani.
Right.
And we wanted to set up a situation of, I really want to go with you, Christ, but, I really like this lifestyle as well. And so the message there is for all of us to look at our lives and ask ourselves, what's holding us back from anything in life, but especially from that relationship with Christ.
Well, definitely some very powerful imagery there. Now, what effect are you hoping that these images have on people?
I believe that my mission is the same for everybody that's at the end of the Gospels. Go tell the story. You know, use all of your God-given talents in every way you can to just go share the story. It doesn't necessarily say we have to go sell the people or that we have to beat them into submission. It just says go tell. Right. And so I'm taking my talents and doing the best I can to go tell the story of Jesus Christ in hopes that it's going to ignite in people who have never known anything about Christ a passion to go know more of Him, or for people who are sitting in the pews every week and not really following Him to be reignited to say, I need to know more about this man.
Well, Michael Belk, thank you so much for being here and joining us today over the phone. We really appreciate it. Thanks for being on Currents.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.